Well, after the atrocity known as beating Skyrim as an ant, I thought I would do a much easier challenge and something simpler, as today we see if you can beat Skyrim with the Ebony Blade. You might be wondering, how can you get the Ebony Blade since it requires being level 20 and having killed the first dragon? Well, you can technically get to the first dragon as a pacifist. The level 20 part isn't the most entertaining thing, as it would require heavy amounts of item duplication plus fortified restoration looping to get to level 20. And since I banned major glitches in most runs, I would just start the game with the quest active, just to spice things up a little bit. The Ebony Blade is indeed a very powerful weapon thanks to its lifesteal effect, and to prevent a perfect steamroll, I thought it would make the run more interesting, as the main rule throughout this is that I'm not allowed to use any healing potion or spell, and to make it even more spicy, I'm going to disable all natural regeneration. I can only level up in town, meaning if I ever want to heal, I'm going to have to hit something to steal life. Otherwise, usual, no major glitches in all story missions. And as for today's bonus objectives, since the run is going to be insanely fast thanks to no movement restrictions, I'm going to be doing the Civil War questline because, oh boy, I am thirsty during the run. Also, I'm going to have to fully power up the Ebony Blade to its full glory, so I'm going to be doing a little bit of betrayal with some people. Yeah, suffice to say, this run is going to be a little on the messier side of things. So with all the rules and such all done, let's begin. So starting with the character creation, I'm going with the Orsmer this time, Berserker Rage and all that. As for the character creation, I tried making a more cursed than usual character, and make the face as bloody as possible. Don't worry, soon enough the missing spots will be all filled in, and give it a very fitting name as usual, given what I'm going to be doing during the run. After creating my Psychopath, I input the console commands, and starting with 100 health is all I'm going to have to work with until I get to Whiterun. So during the first portion of the tutorial, the game decided to not break the wall immediately, but since this is a Bethesda game, it's just a normal Tuesday. Well, I managed to avoid getting caught up on some fire falling into the building below, but I get blazed when getting closer to the keep. As for the keep itself, I decided to side with Hadvar for once. Not just for a change of pace, but rather for something much later on in the run. I thought it would be a good idea to let Hadvar do all the fighting so I can avoid getting damaged, especially when the mage and archers come to play. Well, the idea was short-lived because Hadvar kept getting bullied and knocked down. After the second fight, I said hell with it and left him behind. Turns out I had nothing to fear because somehow I was able to get out of Helgen without getting hit once. Outside of Helgen, it was a pretty straight shot to Whiterun. Picked up the Warrior Stone for obvious reasons, and afterwards I checked my health and it was at 96. Game fades away the health bar after a few seconds and no health actions, so oftentimes I won't see how much HP I have. If you know where all the wolf spawns are, you can make it to the cities without ever seeing a red dot on the compass. In Riverwood, I talked to Alduin to do the blacksmithing tutorial. Something I have never done before because I remember on my first playthrough not realizing the leather straps were a thing. Plus I wanted to be sure to do his favor for what is to come later. I also take up Sven's request for later. I have a feeling this is something bad's going to happen to this town. After my business in Riverwood is done, I make a quick hop over to the Whiterun stables to do my usual opener for early resources in Dawnstar and Solitude to speed up the early game while also picking up locations for later. Merchants really need to stop leaving their inventory buried underneath an inch of dirt. I also take the time to hick up the Markart's chest since I only recently learned of that one, so more enchanted fodder I guess. During all this time I pick up a fortified two-handed to make up for the low DPS of the Ebony Blade. Enough derping around, I enter Whiterun and head to Dragon's Reach, but not before taking up Armin for his quest for later. Inside Dragon's Reach, I do my usual business with the Jarl and Farengar, enchant my stuff, then begin the Whispering Door quest. I was nervous during the entire quest because I have the potential to softlock my game if I get a little too trigger happy. Thankfully, this quest is extremely short and easy. Talk to a kid, talk to a door that may or may not be a floating dresser, talk to the kid again, pickpocket the mage, otherwise I would have to kill him, which I think would break the save, open the door, and take one of the most ridiculous blades that is not player created or enchanted. Seriously, the longest part of the quest is just how slow and unskippable Mephallo's dialogue is. The quest is pretty weak all things considered, having stats akin to a one-handed weapon, but affected by two-handed skills. It does have an effect of draining health for 10 points starting out, and the only way to power it up is by sharpening it on some friends. Cannot be smith for lore reasons. With the weapon in hand, now is a good time to hit up Bleak Falls Barrow, since I want to test making sure that the save did not break, and also see what I am working with. Well, there is no better way to test the blade's sharpness than by shoving it into some bandits. These bandits are meant for the iron swords, not something this powerful, so obviously the place goes by pretty quickly. Welcoming parties get taken down in 1 to 2 swings of the blade. I had to double check making sure I didn't set the difficulty down, but yeah, the sword is very strong for this point in the game. Along the way I do slash out a healing potion I cannot take. As for the wounded frostbite spider, it went down pretty quick, like the fastest spider fight I've ever had. Arvel gets cut down in more ways than one, and the Draugr also go down with relative ease. After the hell of last run, this feels super nice. Feels great being able to have fun again. More cutting, more carefully dodging traps given my healing method, and before too long I'm at the boss. I pop off a Berserker Rage, and yeah, here's how the fight plays out. Yeah, the Ebony Blade is pretty busted for the early game, hence the level 20 prerequisite. While I turn in the quest and meet Delphine and Dragon's Reach, I normally hand in the stone when I first enter Whiterun, so surprising seeing her here. While waiting on Irilith, I have a nice conversation with the Jarl.
Not now.
Then came Mirmulnir. Berserker Rage was still on cooldown, so I had to play it pretty safe, wait for it to land, then go to town. With the sword, I was able to out-heal the damage. It only took a couple cycles to bring down. Just had to deal with it landing very far away. I hand in the quest, and since everything is now in place, I think it is time to execute Order 66. Well, the Jarl was nice enough to give me Lydia, and most of the time I banned companions for these challenge runs. Well, Lydia only sees one combat encounter, and not the one she was expecting. Once I was done, I returned to Riverwood to hand in some errands. I handed in Sven's letter to Camilla, gave Lucy the claw, and relayed the good news to Sven. Once night fell, it became time for a little bit of spring cleaning. First on the block was Hilde. Mostly I was expecting Sven to be home. After that was done, I headed to the trader, gave Lucy the can, waited for Camilla to get home to kill her, broke into Alvar's home and cleaned out the place. Hadvar cannot die sadly at this point, but the rest fell and I got the notification I was doing something right by the door. Next stop was the inn and Sven was 7 feet under, along with Embry and Orgnar. Delphine joined in too, but sadly we can't do what we wish we could all do to her. I tried doing the jail warp, but the guards weren't taking me, so I just wiped out the guards while I was here. While I was here, I also took out Faendal so he can fight over Camilla with Sven in the afterlife, and I wrapped up the rampage in Gerder's house. I didn't side with Hadvar, but her death counted towards the blade, and I knew because I got the final ding knowing my betraying was done and the Ebony blade was in peak condition. Darn, I had 5 more assassinations planned out. Well, with everyone in Riverwood evicted, I tried returning to Whiterun to burn off my bounty, but the guards just wanted me dead. I thought I could hide until the heat blew away, so I did some side quests in the nearby area. First was Right River Watch for where I thought Armin's sword was, or at least usually is. Along the way, a random flame atronach thought it could take a piece of me, but was cut down with relative ease. And when I made it to Right River Watch, I learned just how powerful the Ebony blade truly was. I could just do a single swipe, and the damage from the drained vitality would finish off the health bar. When I started the run, I thought the healing came from just a swing, not from the DOT on top of the swing. Yeah, I just slashed my way through the dungeon and killed the leader for his unique gauntlets that buff 2-handed damage. No sword though, turns out it was placed in a different castle all along. I would have cleaned up the place anyway since the gauntlets are too good to pass up. So while on my way to the next bandit camp, I thought I could take down a giant in my current build. While I can heal like crazy, I can't heal from a one-shot. Humbled, I just headed right to the bandit camp. Same thing as the previous camp, slashed away like crazy until I grabbed the sword. At this point, I was funneling a few level ups into magic, and bought the calm spell for something I wanted to show off later on, as part of my planned assassinations. With that all done, I decided to hit the road and head to Iverstead. Instead of my horse travels, I walked to Iverstead, taking a more scenic pathway there. Along the way, I made sure to clear out Volthum Towers when I heard Xenoblade 2's famous line. The place gets cleaned out in like a minute, and I hit the road. I get lost a couple times, but eventually I make it to Iverstead, killing a regular troll along the way, see how well I would fare against the frost one. Suffice to say, it goes well. Climbing up the steps, I did not care who I slashed at. Deer, wolf, pilgrim, all were just experience for me. Now for the first DPS check of the run, to see how strong you are with the frost troll. Yeah, every swing I could just heal off in a few seconds the troll goes down, and to think I could be doing even more damage. Along the way I was hitting up every monument, because if you visit Alton you get a little temporary buff making wildlife ignore you for a day, so that's all nice. It is of little use because after the initiation with the boomers, I return to Whiterun and get tossed in jail for a long while. Yeah, 4,000 gold is not a healthy thing to have. While I was back in Whiterun, I thought I could do a couple of errands since I was in the area. I gave Arvin his sword back and he was one of my assassination targets, but he gets to live for another day. And while on my way to my other 2 assassination targets, I was stopped by the lunatic cultists. Since I had post-Moon Lord weaponry, they all went down alarmingly quickly. After that, I started the In My Time of Need quest. I wanted to do this quest in a more unique way, and by the divines, I'm going to be doing it my way. I talked to Sadia. While I was heading towards the cave where the Akaviri are hanging out, I was jumped by a dragon while talking to a Khajiit. Once it landed, I just went to town and got it below the health threshold to be grounded for good. a good sign for what's to come for upcoming dragon fights. Heading into the den, I was jumped by quite a few wolves, but nothing too much. Inside Swindler's den, it was the usual laugh at all the little damage the bandits try to do, and heal it all off while appreciating all the two-handed experience. Near the end, I tell Kamatu where Saadia is, then lure Saadia into the trap. So as to why I was keen on some magical levels and getting the calm spell, now is a good time to showcase something you might not know about Skyrim, or at least the side quest I'm doing. But first I sell Pelagius his own veggies because him and his wife were more targets for blade sharpening, at least before the Purification of Riverwood. As for why I did in my time of need, I let Kamatu paralyze Saadia and give me his 500 gold for completing his quest. But what you might not know is that while Saadia is paralyzed, you can kill Kamatu, counts as a blade charge, and when Saadia recovers from paralysis, she becomes hostile for you, so that's why I got calm. So I calmed her down, talked to her, and she acts like you completed her route, giving you 500 additional gold, ending the side quest with 1000 total gold. I celebrate the completion by killing Saadia also for yet another charge. I have double crossed the double cross the double cross. Enough distractions, time to get back on the trail. I left from Swindler's Den, and not before too long after I get rock joined. Well, ain't that swell. One visit to a shrine later, I thought I could get to Usengrave by Labyrinthian. I have a broken sword, there are frost trolls, and I want my revenge from my first playthrough. I just laugh at their feeble attempts at taking my life. At least travelers can rest easily now that there are a few less frost trolls in the world. Inside Usengrave, it's the same as ever, except I'm not handicapped by movement speed, so nothing to worry about. The first room wasn't too bad, a few swings and the cranium fixes a necromancer up. I do have to be a little careful when it comes to fire since unorthodox healing methods, but I have done this dungeon several times in the past few months, and I'm in and out in a few minutes. I do take the time to pick up the Become Ethereal Shout, because infinite sprints plus invincibility will be very invaluable for strong mages and to close some gaps. I pick up the scrap paper shaped horn, then return to Riverwood. After my little rampage, the place was awfully eerie. No children, no townsfolk bantering, just silence. And frankly, it was a little depressing. Inside the inn, I'm frankly surprised Delphine decides to trust a person who killed the entire town, including the 2 dead bodies that remain inside the inn. Surprisingly, Delphine wants me to close the door since, well, everyone is dead. After banter, we departed to Kingsgrove. I just take the carriage there, and after a few dragon words, Salcanier is woken up from his little nap, but she gets put right back in. I just go to town and it dies before it finishes getting its scales back on. Delphine is frankly surprised by me killing the dragon before she even gets up to the den. Given how effortlessly I wiped out the entire settlement off a map, a dragon was small fry. So by that 9,000 IQ brain of hers, she thought a little diplomacy by words or stealth could get us a lead. Yeah, this is me we are talking about. If I can solve a problem with violence, I'm going to solve a problem with violence, and today I am especially thirsty. I make sure that nobody is around by the end of my rampage, not even Malborn is safe from my blade. Or the prisoner. Or the frost troll I didn't even need a berserker rage for. In and out in a couple of minutes. Once the mission of stealth was done, I returned to Riverwood, not wanting to have a job half done. I have some chicken drumsticks. Delphine was not happy and tried to attack me. Considering my track record in Riverwood, it's a miracle she even wants to work with me in the first place. Oh yes, Sven was naked on the ground for some reason. Next up on my rampage was Riften. It was a pretty quick in and out considering the pace I'm going at in this run. I was at low health after the frost troll, so I make a visit to the orphanage to heal up. Inside the ratways, I make some new meals for the local rats, and making my way to Esbern. All things considered, I think this is my fastest clear Riften. Ebony Blade is doing a lot of work, and I was in and out in less than 5 minutes. Back on the surface world, I returned to Riverwood, and got the next destination, which is Skyhaven Temple. Before heading out, I put Sven and Ognar on the fire to keep it warm for nobody who is around. As for Karspire, I actually take the time to take out the Forsworn. And this entire playthrough has been a sadistic power fantasy. No Forsworn or Blood Dragon could stand up to my might. Instead, I put my only 2 non-kill muscles to good work by solving a difficult puzzle, dropped some blood I don't even know who's who anymore, grabbed some blade armor since it's a pretty good upgrade over my existing ones, and enchanted it. Normally at this point in the run I head to Afton and deal with that place, but considering the breakneck pace I'm going at, I'm only like 3 hours into the run and I'm already almost done, with only like an hour and a half left tops. So to that end, I put the main story on pause and decided it would be a good idea to declare war against the province. Oh yeah, tell a kid I already killed his target. Back in Solitude, I joined the Legion, and the first task they had me do is solo an entire bandit camp. I decided to join the Legion because I have never done so in a playthrough. I've only done the Civil War questline twice, both Stormcloaks. First was my first playthrough ever, and the second time the lore reason was because some guards in the Imperial capital stole my character's sweet roll, so in revenge he would topple the Empire. I make the most random of crap. After the quick training session, I am back in Zealitude and I'm sworn into the Legion. Ave Trude Kaiser or something. The first mission of the questline is the same either way, and after that cleaning out of Corvungeon, the Stormcloak problem, it serves as a good gauge of how the fort raids are going to go. And yeah, I just carved right through the forces like a hot knife through butter. Even the Draugr Scourge was of no issue, but with the help of 5 Legionnaires, this wasn't destined to last very long. Next up on the chopping block was defending Whiterun from the attack.
Kill every last one of them!
I wish my sword range was longer, but I was bloodthirsty and overextended quite a bit and the forces were getting inside. After a few minutes of swinging to my heart's content, the Stormcloaks were routed, and the day was saved. The return to the Jarl on the bridge just phased out of existence and the Legion were set to vibrate. After that was done, Tullius wanted me to capture the Pale, but first I wanted to take a nap at an inn. When I woke up, I was in a shack and Astrid wanted me to kill someone in the shed. So I just killed everyone without mercy, including Astrid. I don't distinguish friend or foe, just food. Karma would immediately catch up to me right as I stepped outside, a dragon ambushed me. So yeah, I probably would have died, but thankfully Spider offered its life to keep me alive long enough to kill the dragon. Next up was Nightgale Inn to track down a courier. Down the road a bit, I found the dead courier freshly mauled by a nice wolf. I repaid the wolf its kindness by sucking its life force out. Loot the courier, did not find the platinum chip but did find the letter, so I forged new notes and gave it to the guard. On my way out, I was stopped by a fugitive who wanted to give me an item and then don't rat him out. I found the hunter and ratted out the fugitive for him. This is what happens when you trust someone whose name is Traitor. Sadly, this was one kill I couldn't get, but it was more humorous this way. Next up for the Civil War, it was more or less a loop of the same mission sprinkled in with a side activity here and there. Sure, it had its variety like a fake stealth section and a jailbreak, and at some point I did stop at Septimus to pick up my Afghan keys, but the main idea would be a raid a fort, return to Tullius, raid a fort, return to Tullius, raid a fort. And before too long, it was a battle for Windheld Dam. Beforehand, Tullius promotes me to Legate, therefore becoming essentially the Lanius of Skyrim. As for Windhelm, just know I carved through the forces, friend or foe alike. If they were in front of my blade, they died. Same thing happened during my fort raids. When I get to the palace, I don't even attempt diplomacy and I just swing away. Ulfric did yell at me all the way into another room, but the deed was done and the Stormcloaks were no more. Outside when Tullius was given his victory speech, I took the opportunity with every legionnaire gathered in one spot and just hacked away. The game was extremely confused at this point as while I was slashing away the soldiers kept trying to draw their swords since I'm killing them, but sheathing because there was supposed to be a time of peace. So in one fell swoop I managed to annihilate 2 major armies occupying Skyrim. You know, you should really not trust someone whose name is Traitor. With that all done, now is a good time to continue the main story. Oh yeah, I killed the Dark Brotherhood. With the Sanctuary purified, now we do Afthand. To be honest, Afthand wasn't very high on my concern list, but when I encountered my first Dwarven Spider, I make a shocking discovery. I can't lifesteal from robots. Well, that is now extremely concerning. Thankfully with Afthand, the only parts that have the Dwemer problem is the first part, so with the quick healing on the convenient Khajiit, I spam Become Ethereal and blitz through the first part of Afthand. Second part, I just fall right to the bottom, whack away at the Falmer, avoid the Dwarven Centurion, and you would think I should drop right down into Blackreach, but I wanted more bloodshed. It's only been a minute. Well, this catches up to me as the Centurion breathes down my neck for a good chunk of damage, so I bailed out of there. As for Blackreach, if you know the pathway, you only have to deal with enemies in the first encounter at the very entryway. I was going to stand my ground until I realized they were Dwarven, so I just bailed to the scroll. I used my brain to slash away at the buttons and grab my prize. Next stop is Alduin. Before I can climb the mountainside, I joined the Greybeard's hazing ritual before learning how to yell at clouds. I wanted to take the pathway safe and slow, be using the ice rays to heal, as even though the winds are down, I still take large amounts of damage from them, and I cannot heal from that also. Get to the top, talk to the now retired plumber, raid the toilet paper as I go to the bathroom, and begin the fight with Alduin. Normally in a video I'd go into extreme detail at how Alduin was a nightmare, taking 10 full minutes to kill as he ate away at my healing supplies very quickly, and it was a massive fight to the death, having to get creative and use cover to avoid getting blasted away. Yeah, about that, after doing the Civil War questline plus the Ebony blade thing being broken as it is, I was in no danger whatsoever. This is probably the easiest Alduin fight I've ever had. I was never in danger of dying, and after a couple of minutes, while Alduin gave up, just accepted his fate. He runs away, and since I already did the Civil War questline, I can skip right to Skuldolphin, which is good because I doubt my character could handle sitting around without hacking at something. As for Skuldolphin, if I was having no troubles up to this point, what could a couple silly dragons plus Draugr do? I just hacked and slashed at anything foolish enough to stand in my way. Inside the crypt, the Draugr are built for early game as they're in their first 2 iterations, and just a few swings would put them back down for a nap. Outside once again, since I'd leveled up quite a few times and not saved them for emergency heals, they tried throwing whites in my way. Didn't mean much, all he did was stay alive for a little bit longer to thus heal me more. I did decide to fight the dragon priest that gave me lots of trouble last time, and thanks to a perk I would keep swinging while running forward. And that must have broken the AI as he never even fought back or even grabbed the little staff thing. Felt very good for revenge after last time. With this all done, I broke into the afterlife. While here in the Foggy Mist, I took the time to seek out my fallen comrades, mostly Imperial and Stormcloaks. Not to say hi to them, but to make sure they were double dead. I even ran into Torrig along with Ulfric. Both were re-slain, then came the battle with Soon. To be honorable, I let Soon get the first hit. Sure, he can hit pretty hard, but I would laugh off at every hit in a couple seconds I was in the Hall of Valor. The game forces you to put your weapon away. As much as I wanted to do an afterlife killing spree, the game would not let me. You get to live another day, Ysgramor. If I had 0 issues with the first Alduin fight, then the second fight would be 10 times easier. In fact, the only threatening thing that happened was the fireballs until he landed. With our combined might, I would just face tank Alduin like it was nothing. I stood by his mouth, activate Berserker Rage, and at that point the battle was done. Alduin just accepted his fate. With a few final slashes, along with being put on several watch lists after my concerning actions during the playthrough, I can say yes, you can beat Skyrim with just the Ebony Blade. Well, that was a nice relaxing run. I thought that the healing restriction would make the run more challenging, but the Ebony Blade is just that powerful. Despite the blade being pretty weak in terms of raw damage, it more than makes up for it with its Drain Enchantment, plus its DPS speed. Maybe the game might have been more challenging if I had power level to 20 before starting the run, but that would have been one big serving of glitch cheese. Plus, I don't think the outcome would have changed too much, considering how I carved through the whites like they were nothing. I do think the restrictions on potions made the run much more enjoyable, since I had to be much more aggressive with my actions. When I was done with 1 kill, I would have to move on to the next while avoiding arrows and fireballs. In hindsight, I probably should have done the run on Expert since I had pretty easy time for this run, but this just serves as a nice baseline for future runs. Plus, doing the side activities was fun because if not, this probably would have been just a 4-hour playthrough. Well, if you liked this video, be sure to give it a like. Want more random carnage, feel free to subscribe. And if you have any other challenge ideas, leave them down below. I might branch out to other games, but I don't know. This has been Orpheolus, and I'll see you all in the next one.